Hey everybody, welcome to the Have You Ever Played podcast, the only podcast that doesn't launch on time. I'm Matt, aka Matt Fondude, and who are you?
I'm James, aka Afro40.
And James, today I'm going to get right into a news story that
Okay.
is exciting for me. It's not even really news, it's just MapleStory Worlds has just soft launched as of yesterday night.
Ooh.
Now, we've talked about MapleStory on here a little bit before. I don't think
Yeah.
you were ever really played it.
I played it a little bit as a kid, but I don't have any many strong memories of it.
Mhm. So basically, right now, MapleStory Worlds is Roblox for MapleStory. It is
hmm
they gave everyone assets, all the MapleStory assets, and you can just make games in it and do whatever. So
hmm
it's pretty crazy because it's already been out in Korea for a while, and pretty much the first thing someone did was just remake old school MapleStory in the
hmm
engine, and it's being played by like 1.3 million people currently.
Jeez, that is a big number.
Yeah, and Nexon's like, yeah, no one wants old school MapleStory except the millions of people playing on this server. Um,
Damn, all the maple heads.
yeah. So it's really exciting. It launched last night, technically. They said soft launch yesterday on
hmm
October 16th. They didn't give a time. It's very Nexon fashion. They didn't give a time. They just said sometime tomorrow.
hmm
So I logged in and it wasn't available. And I'm like, okay, well, maybe I heard someone was throwing around, maybe it starts at like 6 p.m. or something like that. So then 6 p.m. rolls around, no news, just nothing. No one's tweeting about it. No one's talking about it. No one knows it exists.
Classic.
And then I joined the Discord server, the official Discord server, and people are like, when does this start? And people are like, oh, it starts at 6. And then 6 comes and it doesn't start. And just no news.
Mm.
Just like, when, hey, is, and then they're like, oh, unscheduled maintenance. And it's like, okay, so the unscheduled maintenance immediately. And then 7 came around. No news. Didn't start. And then so every hour on the hour, people were like, when does this come out? It's like, oh, the next an hour from now.
hmm
And I was expecting any like big multiplayer kind of launch is gonna be a horrible failure. I think that's happened with like every game ever now.
Yeah, it's just kind of how it goes nowadays.
Yeah, there's a lot of assets and management and servers and all that stuff.
hmm
Although this time it wasn't the case of usually these games will drop and 1,000 people will try to log in at once and crash and destroy everything. I think maybe
hmm
like 200 people knew that this was happening. I don't think anyone knows unless you've been following this. No one knows this is happening.
Yeah.
But it is a soft launch, I guess. So that they're
hmm
really not being very loud about it existing.
Yeah.
Anyway, the game did launch eventually,
Huge.
and I played a little bit of it, and I played some more today, and I want to talk about it. So
Okay.
basically, it's again, like I said, MapleStory, but it's Roblox where you can create. People can create their own games. They made a whole tool set
hmm
for making games. And you can also just import PSD, like Photoshop files, it seems like.
Oh.
And they also made it so that it's like in Roblox currently, you can make user generated content. So they made it so you could just like upload stuff. So people have just immediately uploaded just memes, or you could just play as like a a man, like a Korean man PNG. Um,
Okay.
just like levels of memes. Oh, by the way, the game is like half of the launcher and half of the games and half of the content is just still in just raw Korean. So
hmm
I'm not sure what's going on half of the time, but
Okay.
there's a lot of Korean memes. So there'll just be like some random person who I'm like, I don't know who that is, but you can play as them in MapleStory.
hmm
Um, it's cool. It's very cool. I like it so far. There's nothing. I don't think there are any games worth playing at the moment because it again launched yesterday,
Yeah.
and we're Americans. So it came out in for it top launched just for North and South America right now, and No one is able. So you're not allowed to play Maple Land, which is the old school MapleStory Korean server. It's like geo
Yep.
locked. You're not allowed to play on it, and I think that's the main thing people are playing. You know,
Yeah.
so I played some games on it. There's a Getting Over It game. Like
Oh
like
God.
Getting Over It,
Yeah.
the Rage platformer. I don't know
Yeah.
if it's like a weirdly officially sponsored thing. Um, but it's like, yeah, the full Getting Over It game plus like a MapleStory version of it, and that's actually works pretty good.
Hmm.
Um, I also played like a weird farming, like Farmville type game, which was like not my cup of tea, but it exists. And I
Hmm.
played some other games, and it's really janky and kind of terrible. But I'm hoping that as more people have access to it, they'll make better content.
Yeah. Yeah. When you
So,
mentioned the getting over it thing, I just remembered that whole genre, and I had like a but like Vietnam flashbacks. And I was thinking we're due for another one of those games this month, probably.
um, yeah, well, I think the Rage platformer might have kind of died down a bit
I
with
don't know. I mean, there wasn't
getting
there
or
wasn't there
only up.
no, like Change Together, I think it was called.
Oh, that, yeah, that is probably the
I
newest
guess that
one.
counts, yeah. And
I think
that was like
mhm.
August.
Maybe the multiplayer Rage platformer is kind of now all the rage.
Yeah,
Um,
rage with your friends.
Rage with your friends as a concept, I think, is a little more fun because it's kind
Yeah.
of goofy. I was playing the Getting Over It MapleStory game, and I just remembered how, like, oh, Rage platformers can be fun for a bit, and then you realize that, I mean, especially the MapleStory one, they even say in the description that the physics are like wonkier than are supposed to be,
Yeah.
and at least with Getting Over It, the physics are like wonky, but they feel you can replicate kind of the same thing every time. In this
Hmm.
MapleStory one, it almost feels like kind of random sometimes, some of the interactions that you have.
Yeah.
It is still impressive though what can be done in the engine. Plus, it's interesting to have a Roblox style game where you can make your own levels, but just like a fully 2D game, like a fully
Hmm.
2D environment to make levels and stuff. I'm excited to see what people make, and I'm excited really to play the old school MapleStory server if that ever comes. I'm sure someone else will make it, or they'll get an official like port of Maple Land.
Hmm.
Oh, there's also going to be an iOS and Android app for it as well, which is kind of
Ooh.
cool. That's currently not available in the US at the moment,
Yeah.
but it's coming. So I'm hoping it brings more eyes toward MapleStory as well, because I really enjoy the art and assets and stuff of that game. I'm not as a huge fan of playing the current iteration of the game though. So
Hmm.
yeah. Well, I'll keep people posted on MapleStory Worlds news as I play more of it. But in other news, I just saw this. I don't know if you had a chance to check this out, but did you see that Subnautica 2 has a teaser trailer?
No, I actually did not.
Did you ever play Subnautica or
I think I played it a little bit. Like
Mhm.
I think it like back in oh my god, this is bringing me back. I think back in college, I played it at a friend's apartment for like an hour.
Oh, what, like on a PC? Is that on multi-platform? Was it on PC or were
I
you
don't
on like
know.
a console?
I think it was on PC.
Hmm.
But he had like the whole VR setup and shit. It was cool.
Oh, interesting. I've not played it in VR. I think it has VR support, right? Isn't there
Yeah,
a
it does. Yeah.
is it a separate game, the VR version?
I don't know, but I did play the
I'll
VR.
look it up.
I did play it on VR.
VR. Yeah, I don't know how, but that sounds terrifying.
Yeah, it
Um,
was.
especially if you get really, did you go like really dark, like to the depths?
I don't remember. I was just kind of walking around or swimming around rather.
Hmm. Well, that game, the actual, I mean, non VR version, it's a pretty fun survival game,
Hmm.
and I kind of bounced off of it a couple times, and I've tried to stream it. I think
Yeah.
one of the flaws of the game is that it doesn't have multiplayer, which is kind of a weird thing to say because I've almost grown out of a multiplayer cooperative survival type game. Like any game, I used to always want games to have some sort of co-op online multiplayer mode. Now I'm
Yeah.
all about single player games. I don't know if you feel the same way.
Yeah, I mean, I was pretty similar. I used to be really big on co-op. Like I remember back in my Xbox 360 days, I would be really sad when a game didn't have co-op because that was like when every game was trying to do the like side mode, like COD Zombies and stuff like that. Like I remember like Battlefield 3, there were all the rumors, oh my god, they're gonna add a dinosaur mode, and then they just never did.
I've never heard of dinosaur mode
You don't remember that? Like all the dinosaur teasers in Battlefield 3?
for Battlefield. No, I completely that could completely passed me by.
Oh man,
What
that
would
was
a
a time.
dinosaur mode even be?
It would be like zombies, but with dinosaurs.
Well, there is a game that is that. I forget what it is. It Dino Crisis that is that game, or there was
Maybe.
a game that was that where you could like instead of zombies, it was dinosaurs.
I don't know, but I remember it was like all over the internet. Like every YouTuber was like, "Oh my god, this dinosaur Easter egg! They're teasing the dinosaur mode."
I feel like we really missed out on that not being a real thing because that sounds
Yeah,
really
it
fun in
was a big
Battlefield
missed
physics.
opportunity. I think. I mean, I don't know how like much longevity it would have had because honestly, it's not like it's not like zombies. Like you would have to do so much different stuff. The different types of you need a bunch of different types of dinosaurs. And I don't even know how you'd make them like entertaining because they're all just gonna try to eat you or like
Mhm.
scratch you or something.
It
Yeah, I don't
would
know.
be. I mean, it would be cool if it was a player versus like a asymmetrical multiplayer. Someone's a dinosaur,
Yeah,
someone's a person game.
yeah, kind of
I don't
like
know if we
Evolve.
kind
Remember
of like Evolve, that
Evolve?
huge success. Yeah, that huge successful game.
Yep, the game that you can
I
totally still play
I was so excited for
without
Evolve.
mods.
For people who don't, I mean, I have a feeling that a lot of people don't know what Evolve is because it came out and immediately failed. It was
Yeah,
an asynchro. It was a game in which you would have one team would be hunters, the other team would be a cool monster that constantly evolves and gets upgrades. The
yeah. So
problem is, yeah,
yeah,
what were
so
you
it
gonna
was like
say?
a 4v1 type thing, and one player would be like an alien monster. They would start off pretty weak, and the other people are just hunting them, and they would have to eat smaller creatures around the map to gain strength, and the hunters would like follow the trails and the creatures that they left behind and stuff like that.
Yeah, and one of the core gameplay problems was it was just more fun to be the monster, and no one wanted to really play the hunters, which I think is always kind of a problem in these types of games.
Yeah,
But that wasn't really what killed it. It was probably some of the most egregious monetization of that time period, which is funny to look back on because it's almost like exactly like contemporary monetization of every new release that comes out.
hmm,
Although it was pretty bad, especially during an era where people weren't. This was like I think it was pre Fortnite, right? This was pre Battle
yeah,
Pass. So this game people you basically had to like buy monsters as DLC. Everything was gated behind a paywall. It was just so many monetization things. And the game was like $60. I think it was like a full priced game and there was a bunch of additions, I believe. And the game itself wasn't
yeah,
actually that good. And like every piece of content was just piecemealed and behind some sort of paywall and gated and just no one wanted to play it. People liked
yeah.
the game when it was in beta, I think, but then as soon as you had to buy it, just no one bought
Hmm.
the game.
Yeah, so to be fair, like DLC characters and things like that weren't uncommon at the time, but they just had way too many of them.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you just didn't have access
Yeah.
to enough at the base cost of the game.
And people weren't standing for it, especially when it was a full price game at the time. I do think people have come around. They still don't like paying full price, but now you're paying $70 for a Call of Duty game with $20 Nicki Minaj skins. So,
Yep.
people have come around and the industry has come in kicking and screaming and they're not going to budge on this and people are going to and I guess if people keep buying stuff, why would you not? They make
Yeah.
so much money. Anyway, that was a long tangent off of it's cool to have multiplayer in games And I used to really like to have a multiplayer experience, either through mods or in the native game. But of all games that I have felt recently that really needed a multiplayer experience, I felt that playing Subnautica 1, I was kind of shocked there wasn't a co-op mode. It
Yeah.
really feels like it would be more fun with another person, just
Hmm.
because there's a lot of building and exploring, and there's a lot of downtime and menial labor tasks in which if you could divvy the tasks up amongst several people, it would feel a little bit less like a chore to do some things in that game.
Yeah.
And I'm speculating that the second game will have multiplayer because in the teaser trailer, they show two explorers together hanging out doing something. And it's a cinematic, but it is giving that energy. And I think a lot of people, a critique of the game was that they wanted a multiplayer mode. So I
Hmm.
think that could happen. I think that would really benefit the game.
Yeah.
Um, but speaking of really benefiting gaming, Unity 6 just launched, which or wait, did I say Unity 6? Unreal 6. Wait. Now I'm confused. It's Unreal 6. I wrote Unity 6. It's probably
Damn.
because I was thinking about how Unreal Engine 6 just announced that I believe they're not going to be charging crazy fees to use their service, unlike
Hmm.
Unity. And I mean, they might. I'm looking at it now. I really just wrote Unreal 6 because I saw people talking about it, and I didn't really have any other context. In our docket, I just wrote
Man.
well, I wrote Unity 6 launches, which is not correct. But I don't even know. Do you know how sometimes when you look at these Unreal Engine things, they'll have like a fairy in a jungle tech demo? You know what I'm saying? Where they have
Yeah.
these showcases where they're just like the most garbage looking fantasy. It's like this is what Mario will look like in 2020 in 2002. Like this is what Mario will look like. Super
Okay, so I've
HD.
I've looked it up. All the stuff on Unity 6 is just talking about how how they're basically trying to fix their PR. They're saying we're different now. The company's fundamentally different. We're mounting a comeback. It's
So
like, man.
the only thing I heard about Unity 6 is that it was into the discussion of games moving away from their original game engines, their proprietary game engines, and a lot of games going toward just using Unreal Engine, and how
Yep.
that's kind of homogenizing how certain games look and feel.
Hmm.
And I can see that in a way, but then what are you looking at proprietary engines? You have the Bethesda horrible like Skyrim Elder Scrolls engine,
Oh god.
which is horrible and bad. I
Yep.
mean, you do have the Metal Gear Solid like Fox engine, which is awesome, but I don't think they can make anything in that anymore because I think that was developed when Kojima was with Konami, and I don't know if Dead Rising, I don't know if Death Stranding was made in that engine. I don't know, but
Hmm.
it does seem like everyone's just kind of using Unreal or Unity or maybe Godot, but not really. Um, and it's kind of I guess it's good for everyone to have an Unreal Engine 6 because there's probably new features. That's cool. I don't know anything about. I think it just came out.
Yeah, Unity 6 just came out like literally today.
No, Unreal Engine 6.
No, no,
You said Unity,
I think it's Unity 6.
but I'm looking at Unreal Engine 6 right now. Are we
Are
like
we on
like?
both?
Or wait a minute. Are we? Or wait. Maybe it is Unity 6, and
Yeah,
I'm
I think
being a
it's Unity
fool.
6. So when I look up Unreal Engine 6, the first thing I see is Unreal Engine 6 is not coming out in 2024.
All right, this is the worst podcast segment of the podcast. This is by far the worst segment we've ever done. Let's take a
Man.
moment to step back and appreciate what led to this moment. One, in the doc, I literally wrote one thing: Unity 6 launches. No context. I was just gonna briefly mention it because I thought it was interesting, but I was unprepared.
Damn.
Yeah. So apparently Unity 6 launches, but now they're not making it paid for, I think. I think that's
Yeah.
maybe what I read in like 2 seconds before the podcast. I don't know. Maybe Unity 6 isn't launching. Who knows? Let's move on. Let's
Oh,
move
maybe it
on to
just doesn't
something else.
exist. Maybe it's fake.
I feel like this was the Unity game. This was like the rushed Unity game of podcast topics. Like
Yep.
we just reused assets for this one. All right,
It's
let's move
reused
on. We
assets.
actually have a question from a viewer. There wasn't a lot of news this week, so we're gonna move right into questions.
Yep.
So hyep at gmail.com if you want to send us a question. So here's a question. It literally starts as here is a question. Here is a question for you and your podcast. Ranking these things is always prime content. What is the best game from each console you have owned? Also, for no bonus points, if you could destroy a game from the collective consciousness and all that entails, what would it be? Thank you. I will not fix
Ooh.
my cap locks. Big Wang. This was written in all caps, by the way, like a
Yes.
serial killer.
Ooh.
I like these questions though. So, best game from each console that you have owned. That's a lot of wait. That's a
Yeah.
lot of
So, oh god. So for
things.
me, that's like it's PS2, GameCube, Wii, Xbox 360, PS4, Xbox One. Uh, I think that's it.
You know what? Maybe let's do like want to do like let's do like a PS2. Let's do one from each kind of one from each like generation of just
Sure.
maybe home consoles or something.
Yeah.
So like a PlayStation, a PS2 to what like Xbox or Xbox 360 slash PS3, and then modern like
Yeah.
PS4
Yep.
before PS5, I guess.
Sure.
Okay,
All right. So PS2. Um, I mean, I was pretty young, so I didn't actually play a lot of games on it. So this is more about which ones I remember. I mean, I remember the Dragon Ball Budokai games were pretty cool. I guess the third one was my favorite. Um, and then I just have a really strong memory of Jack and Daxter.
which one? Those that
The
game series drastically changed in
Yeah,
tone.
like I remember the first one, then I remember getting the second one, getting to the first level where you played as Dark Jack, getting stuck, and never playing it again.
That first one's pretty great. I haven't
Yeah.
played it too much because I did. I would have loved that if I had it. I played it over a relative's house. It was one of those mythical. You play it on a TV. You have no idea what the game is, and you're at some like friend of a friend's family's basement, and you're playing this game. And then like 10 years later, you actually find out what it was. But I thought it was cool. I just had no idea what it was,
Hmm.
and I have a similar, really vivid memory of. I must have been a Tony Hawk Pro Skater game, and I believe I looked this up later, and I can look it up after too. But there was a part where you were skateboarding like into a tiki idol in some sort of void space in like a bonus room, and that always stuck with me. And I don't, and we couldn't get to the tiki idol or whatever. And I did look it up. I don't remember what game it was, but I might have to look that up again.
Hmm.
But for my PS2, I guess it would be like PS2 and Wii, but I feel like the Wii was so different that's not really fair to compare. But I'll do a PS2. I really liked the Sly Cooper games as a kid, and I think they still really hold up. And I think of the Sony mascots, besides like Ape Escape, which I think is super slept on as a series, I mean, I would pick like Ape Escape 3 too, as well as a crazy slept on game. But the Sly Cooper games are all like very fantastic games. So I would pick that and maybe Ape Escape, I guess, for that console generation.
Hmm.
All right, what about you for this is the craziest one, PS3 to Xbox, like
Ooh,
360. There's a lot of good
man, this is a
games.
hard one. And I guess it's between Gears of War and Halo for me.
Hmm.
Um, I guess for both of them, it's the third installation that I liked the most. So, ooh, this is really hard. I mean, I think Gears of War 3 was like probably the most complete Gears of War game. I would actually, yeah, I would say Gears of War 3 because when I look back on it and going back to our co-op mode conversation, Gears of War 3 they had regular campaign, which also had co-op. They had horde mode, which was meant to be played in co-op, and you could like build your base, and there was like a currency system. They really like updated it. And then there was, I think it was called Beast Mode, where you played as the locusts and the lambent, like the like villain people, the monsters, and that also had co-op. That was really fun. There was like a purchasing system to purchase different kinds of enemies, and eventually you could get like, if you got like enough money, you could play as the berserker, which is like the strongest one. And then there was the regular multiplayer, which they also had bots for at the time, and the bots actually were not bad. So you could technically just play co-op multiplayer.
Hmm.
Um,
It. Mhm.
yeah, and then the guns are really good. Introduced really cool guns and new gun and some like older guns that people liked before that they got rid of and stuff like that. Cool game.
It was always really. It was always really cool when you could have we like an extra multiplayer mode. I don't think games really do that anymore
Yeah,
because it needs to be. People used to just play things for fun, and now it needs to be this prestige, super competitive, ranked, 1,000 content treadmill, infinite game if it's going to be multiplayer, which is good in its own way. But you can look at games like I didn't Doom 2016, didn't that have a multiplayer mode that like no one played, although it was like
yeah.
apparently
I mean,
fun.
I guess to be fair, that was more like it was more of like a legacy mode because it was just basically Quake.
Hmm.
So
Well, I
I can
don't think
understand why
games
they
are
did it
really
at the time.
getting
I think that was
games aren't really
more.
yeah.
I think that was more of like the 2010s trend of like every game, every single player game needed to have multiplayer.
Yeah, needed to be a Call of Duty basically. Even Duke
Yeah,
Nukem 3D or Duke Nukem Forever had a multiplayer mode.
yeah,
Um, yeah, I don't think a lot of games are getting that, and some games are getting multiplayer modes, but they're not getting these side competitive shooter one like modes anymore.
hmm,
It's kind of its own thing. If you're gonna make a game like that, it's got to be its own thing.
yeah,
But my my Xbox 360, because I didn't have one slash PS3 era game, and these aren't really our like best game. I don't think these are the best games. It's just something that has defined that generation, I guess, for me when I think back like
yeah,
quickly.
yeah. I mean,
I
it's kind of hard to.
Mhm.
It's also kind of hard to say best game because like lots of the time we just didn't play the actual best game.
No, I'm thinking this as something that like can changed my view, or like I look back at the console and think fondly instantly about.
Yeah.
And I didn't play, so I'm gonna start with one that I think is important. I didn't play Dark Souls or Demon Souls on PS3. I played them on PC later, but I think
Hmm.
that is probably of the era the most impactful game slash crazy, one of my favorite games of all time, games that came out at that time.
Yeah.
And like Dark Souls is phenomenally crazily good,
Hmm.
and I would put that up there. But I'm thinking of games I actually played on the console. Little Big Planet, which Little Big Planet 2 specifically, I guess, but Little Big Planet
Mm.
is a fantastic game that I wish would come out anywhere else. There's a lot of great games that are trapped forever on the PS3 for a
Yeah.
while. Um, but Little Big Planet is just so good, and I've talked about it at length. And it's just cool to see things like MapleStory Worlds, where I'm getting that Little Big Planet level user created content energy out of other mediums that I love. Like I loved MapleStory, so it's
Hmm.
just kind of cool. That game is really, really good, and I think that, I mean, Sackboy became somewhat of a mascot for Sony for a while too of that era. I think
Yeah.
that's kind of a defining, at least in the space of console exclusives slash more like family friendly games. It's kind of like a defining game.
Hmm.
And then I guess the last one we could say like more modern, like PS. I would say PS4, which is weird because we're still kind of in the PS4 generation, even though the PS5 is almost dead, but they're still making PS4 games.
Yeah.
What would you
Unfortunately, the
say is
PS5
like,
has
yeah?
no games.
What would you say is the PS4 like the game, the killer app? I mean,
Uh,
Xbox I
I'd
think doesn't
probably.
even exist as like
Yeah.
exclusives wise.
I don't think Xbox really had a thing for
Hmm.
that generation. I would say, and it's probably got to be God of War, right?
I would say that's one of them for sure. God of War, 2018,
I mean,
right?
like, yeah, you've got God of War. I would say like Spider Man was a big one. I wouldn't say it was like the best one or the most influential one, but it was
See,
definitely
mine was
big.
gonna be Spider Man. Actually, I was gonna say that. Just I really of the, I mean, I wouldn't describe it as like okay. So we didn't talk about any GTA or any Rockstar games, which are usually kind of these big defining things. But I think that's kind of like above this what we're talking about because those are
Yeah,
multi-platform. Those are like big crazy things. Because you could say Red Dead 2 is like insane,
yeah,
but I think Spider Man. I didn't play a lot of games on PS4. Wait, what was Bloodborne on PS4? Or
yeah,
was that? Yeah. So I mean, Bloodborne's fantastic, but that's cheating a little bit. But I do
yeah,
think Spider Man would have been my go to, thinking of like, oh, that was a PS4 game and it was awesome. You
yeah.
know.
I think the only thing that makes me one of the things that makes me hesitate on Spider Man is that it's like it kind of took inspiration from the Batman Arkham games. So
Hmm.
like if the Batman Arkham games didn't exist, then I would say like definitely because that'd be the defining single player superhero game.
I do think that it was just nice to have a game that you can do the whole, you can 100% the game in a reasonable amount of time, and all of the content is pretty much worth doing. I mean, there's extra content that I'm like, oh, I don't care about, but
Hmm.
the core side content is all worth doing, and the game is just a brief, fun game.
Yeah,
I really enjoyed that game, and it ran good on the console too, which was surprising.
yeah. Though there was the puddle controversy.
What was the puddle controversy? I remember there was
In
a
like
flag
the
controversy as well.
yeah in like the original in the original like gameplay reveal and all the trailers, like there were these really detailed like puddle reflections and stuff like that, and they weren't in the actual game because I'm pretty sure they realized it would like tank the performance.
Yeah, well, that was. I mean, I feel like that stuff. It probably was restored on the PC version of the game, in
Maybe
which you could have all the
I don't know. It
RTX
was a really
stuff.
stupid controversy though. People were just complaining.
Well, there was also a controversy when the PC port came out, and this has happened a couple times with games where so in the game there's flags throughout the game, and some of them
Mhm.
are like pride flags, and there was a mod that removed the pride flags and replaced them with the American flag, and then that
Oh
mod
yeah, I
got
remember
banned,
that.
and it's just like not, I don't know, not cool. And
Yeah.
that was also a very weird controversy where it's like you got to go out of your way to like mod things out of your game, you know.
Hmm.
But that's a little spicy. But
Hmm.
anyway, did you answer your, we kind of like melded our answers there for that generation.
Yeah, I answered mine. I said God of War.
Yeah, God of War, that first God of War is fantastic. That game is
Yeah.
really good. I also, it's funny because I consider that more of like a PC experience because I played it on the PC.
Yeah.
Um,
I also
but that
think
that
that
game is great.
yeah, that game was also like the stereotypical like PS4 game that's more cutscenes and gameplay.
All of the game. Oh, we didn't talk about Last of Us, which I'm actually playing right now. The game I've never played it. Um,
Yeah, that is true. That
uh,
could probably be that would probably be big for the PS3 generation.
well, which generation? Because it's on the PS3,
Oh
PS4, and
god.
PS5.
Oh
It's been
god.
remastered and remade like 3 times.
Man.
It's kind of good for me though, because I was gonna play it on the PS3, but I waited, and now I'm playing the weird 15th remaster. So I'm probably getting the best version of the game at this point.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, Last of Us
uh,
is interesting cuz like it was definitely really influential, but like I don't know. I feel like there weren't many games that were super inspired by it. I guess like when I'm really thinking about it, it was just kind of everybody saw it and it's like that's really good, and we're gonna keep doing our
well,
own thing, but like that's just like very exceptional.
I think Sony, their studio, took a lot of that success to heart because every game, well, not every game post that, but all of their modern entries or contemporary entries follow a very narrative, very story focused. You're gonna be in a cutscene for a while. You're kind of in a natural cutscene and then back into gameplay, then out of cutscene. I noticed that
I
because I
guess.
haven't
I actually,
played.
if you really go back, I guess it's like a Metal Gear Solid thing.
Well, Metal Gear Solid's like their own. That's a. its own beast. The
Yeah,
first party Sony games. Although it is kind of funny to think that I feel like Metal Gear Solid for a little bit was kind of a PlayStation mascot, like Snake,
yeah.
a little bit, because he was. I mean, the original Metal Gear and all those games were on, like, it was on the NES and some computer, MX, MS, whatever, old boomer computer that is even too out of my range of gaming memory. And
Hmm.
and then on GameCube too, notoriously in Twin Snakes.
Hmm.
Um, Oh, actually, since we're talking about it, we'll go back to the question because we still need to answer the second part of the question. But Silent Hill 2 remake is actually getting very good reviews, and people seem to really be enjoying it, which is crazy because I thought that game was going to be a colossal failure just based on
Yeah,
every other remaster and remake of Silent Hill, and also Konami
yeah,
the existence of modern Konami.
man.
Um, people seem to really like it. That I've just seen a lot of positive reviews, and maybe I'll check that version of the game out at some point. And it kind of has me a little bit hopeful for the Metal Gear Solid 3 Delta remake, because I think that game is going to be hot garbage. But I thought Silent Hill 2 was going to be
Man,
hot garbage, and
I just want the
people are
piss
pleasantly
filter back.
surprised. Yeah, was it? Is it a piss filter in Metal Gear Solid 3, or is it like a green filter?
I don't remember actually. Let me look it up.
I think it's like, isn't it like a green filter? Which Metal Gear has like a green filter?
Oh, oh no,
Piss
no. Okay,
filter.
so it was a green filter. Yes,
But wait, I'm
I
looking at,
think.
people are still calling it the aforementioned piss filter.
I don't know, man. People
Is
just
that in
call
Survive?
everything that gets called a piss filter.
Wait, Metal Gear Solid Delta's visual filters let you replicate the piss filter from Games Radar. Okay, whew. The P yellow filter is making a comeback. Okay, whew.
Yes,
We can rest easy.
huge.
All right. Before we get too off topic, we should answer the final part of the question of, if we could remove a game from the collective consciousness and all that it entails, what would it be? I think I
League of
have a
Legends, no
spicy.
hesitation.
Oh, that's a good one. League of Legends. Here, let me just say mine, then we'll just go into them. What about Fortnite? Fortnite, specifically the Battle Royale mode. Or maybe we should just get rid of Battle Royale mode. But maybe
No, no.
but like leave Fortnite as a weird, um the original concept of Fortnite, where it was like the survive, what was, like, a tower defense game, but get rid of
Yeah, it was like
the
a
Battle
zombie
Royale mode.
survival game.
I think the industry would be better without it. But anyway, why, well, obviously League of Legends, I could see why, but explain.
It's created some very horrible, some very horrible, annoying people online. It inevitably led to Valorant, and I think we all know that Valorant has created more horrible people online, very
let me be
insufferable individuals.
Let me be your monkey's paw, though. If there was no league, then Dota would be the new league. So,
I mean,
because something else
maybe,
needed
but
to be
I
there.
think I think Dota doesn't like appeal to the masses as much. I think it. I don't know. I think it was kind of its own thing.
I feel
I,
like it
I, I
could
think
have.
League does things that attract the type of people that play it that Dota does not.
But certain skins and character archetypes as
Yes.
well, and just general vibe, and also the
Yep.
free nature. Well, they're both free, but yeah, I mean, I feel like
Oh, actually, another
would.
thing: paying for characters in a MOBA.
Oh, that's horrible. Yeah,
That's
I could
something that was
always agree on that.
really popularized by League.
I don't understand. I never understood that, because the, I mean, it was before the time where you could just make tons of money off of cosmetics. Do you still
Yeah,
have to pay for characters in that game? I know
yeah.
they trivialized it a lot.
And I think you
That's
can like buy
horrible.
them all in like a pack or something like that, but still.
It's like, I just want to play in a game where it matters to play the characters. Also,
Yeah, and also
in
like
that game,
the weekly rotation too. That is bad. Like
Yeah, because
some
then you're
games,
only
some
getting
other
those
games,
characters.
yeah, some other games where you have to unlock characters. At the very least, they give you like a beginner set, and it
Yeah,
doesn't change. But it's like I remember when I first tried League, I really liked Ezreal, and like I was playing it for a week, and I was like, oh yeah, I'm an Ezreal one trick. And then one day I signed on, and I couldn't play him anymore. I'm like, what the fuck?
to play devil's advocate, I do think that they gate characters because it'll be overwhelming to have access to
Yeah,
so many. But
but
those
I
games
think
are
there are better
overwhelming
ways to do
anyway.
it.
Yeah, exactly, and they
Like
don't
I
need to
think you
have a
could say
paywall.
like, oh, you can't play this character until you have a certain amount of games played or something like that.
Mhm.
Like I know Dota does it where like for brand new players, they have a they can only play like half the characters that are rated below a certain difficulty, I think.
I
And
think that
then
would make
after like
sense
I think
somewhat.
after like 20 games you get to play them all.
Yeah, I mean, a world with no League of Legends. Let's see, what would we lose? We wouldn't have Arcane, which I haven't seen, but people seem to like that. We wouldn't have a million bad spin-off games. We was TYT, is that TYT? What is the tower defense
TFT,
thing?
TFT.
TFT
Yeah. I mean
acronyms.
that's just Dota auto chess. They just copied it.
Okay, so never mind. I was
Okay,
like,
so
would we
what
not
you're
have
gonna
had
find
that?
a lot is that most of Riot's things are like, okay, Valve or like somebody that is associated with Valve made this. How can we make it like contemporary?
How can we add a bikini skin to this? Take this how can we take characters from Overwatch, somehow make them more boring and add bikini skins? How can we make Counter-Strike more toxic? Although I think Counter-Strike's probably more toxic than
It's probably more
Valorant.
toxic, but it also doesn't have e couples.
Oh my god. Um yeah, all right. I can see that being I think the Fortnite thing I think Fortnite now is actually kind of a fun platform because they have all
Yeah,
these side games and Lego for like I think it would be fun and I would have really liked it if I was hit with that game when I was a lot younger. I think I would have
yeah,
definitely been like a Fortnite kid. I don't know if I would
yeah.
have
I
ever
mean,
liked the core battle royale gameplay, but I would have liked the creative stuff.
yeah. Like I think as much as people like shit talk all the Fortnite collabs and stuff, it probably is really fun as like a kid to be able to play all the characters you like in a game. Especially since lots of these franchises just don't get games anymore. Like
Mm,
like we don't
like
have
Rick
those
and
like
Morty.
obligatory, oh, a movie came out for this thing, it needs to have a game with it. Like we just don't get that anymore.
Yeah, I miss that a little bit. There, notably, some of the worst games are like the movie tie-in games.
Yeah.
But in the era of movie tie-in games, also the era of having to make a Game Boy Color, Game Boy Original, Game Boy Advance, PS2, and Wii version of the same game, there was a
Yeah.
lot of creativity in some of the games. Notably, like some of the Harry Potter games. There's some really good Harry Potter games throughout various systems.
Mhm.
Recently, I heard that the Game Boy Color Harry Potter games, which are like JRPGs, are pretty good. So I might check those out. It's just some crazy stuff. And we're not getting that anymore. And I think there is something really sad about not having handheld games anymore because the Switch is just console games you can have handheld. People aren't designing these smaller handheld games, and I think a game designed to be played in chunks and on the go had a completely different design philosophy than a console game. And we
Yeah.
don't really have games like that anymore. And those are some of my favorite types of games. It's kind of tough. I really hope that there's a resurgence in that design philosophy, especially with the rise of like the Steam Deck and a lot of these handheld consoles. I know a lot of people want their game to run well on the Steam Deck because there's a big install base of people who want to play games on the Steam Deck. But
Mhm.
I don't know, we're missing a lot of elements, and I think local multiplayer and local like Street Pass on 3DS or like these LAN connection, cable of the past, which I never even really got to do because no one ever had handhelds when I was like where I was. But I thought those were always cool features.
Yeah.
Um, but that was a long tangent to say that Battle Pass is cringe. Although Fortnite to be rotating shop and Battle Pass is cringe. Although Fortnite does handle their Battle Pass in a pretty reasonable way, where they still give you credit so you can buy. They probably have one
Yeah.
of the better implementations of the Battle Pass.
Yeah, you know what's kind of
Um,
funny? Even without Fortnite, the Battle Pass would probably still be in the same place because Valve made the Battle Pass.
and the loot box, technically,
Yeah, that's
I think,
actually
right
something
with
people
TF2.
don't like. Lots of people don't know. Like the first Battle Pass was a Battle Pass for the International. Technically, it wasn't the same system. If anything, the way that Valve did Battle Passes back then and kind of still do, people would really hate it. It's actually like a lot more greedy because you don't really level it up that much through gameplay. You mostly
The
have to pay for it.
the loot box, the TF2 loot box was used to be horrendously terrible.
Yeah,
Where I remember when you would open the loot box before Stranges and all that stuff in TF2 in Team Fortress 2, you would open a loot box and you could just get a regular weapon. You would pay like $1, you
yeah.
just get like some random regular weapon. I mean,
They
back
also
then it
weren't just
mattered more.
cosmetic the
Yeah,
whole time
you'd
too.
get
So like, yeah,
yeah. That didn't matter as much because you would get weapons eventually,
yeah,
but you could either get a really rare thing, a cool thing, or just like nothing. And imagine opening a loot box and getting just imagine like you're playing like Overwatch 2 or something, and you
yeah.
open a loot box which isn't a thing anymore. But if you opened a loot box and you got just Tracer's default skin, and then you're like, okay, what am I gonna do with that? Like I already have that. Like what? Why did I get this? It's like you could either get this extremely cool, super custom thing, or just nothing. You get dirt. You just literally get nothing at all.
Hmm.
I think if you have a loot box in a game, if you pay for it, you should at least get like something.
Yeah,
I think
definitely.
MapleStory had something like that too, where you could get like 50 potions. You could just get like
50
for like
potions.
$1, you could just get like you could either get this crazy rare thing or just like 50 like tacos that you could just eat in the game with no purpose. It's like that's so bad.
Hmm.
Um, I don't know if we removed either of those games, something else would just take their place. I don't. I think those ideas were coming from somewhere. I don't think you could have held it back. You know.
Yeah.
Um. Oh, all right. So let's get into our weeks a little bit. We kind of have been doing that throughout the pod, but I wanted to talk a tiny bit about some of the games I've been playing.
Hmm.
Actually, I wanted to mention that I think we're in a renaissance of games actually getting ported to PC and different consoles now,
Yeah.
because the game Tomba or Tombi if you're in Europe, which is a PS1 game by a company that doesn't exist anymore, like Whoopee Camp or whatever. They went
Hmm.
super bankrupt. Is on Steam now, and it's released. It's being published by Limited Run Games, which apparently are terrible people or terrible
Hmm.
company. But it's on Steam. I guess it's kind of like a bare bones emulation port, but the fact that that exists is kind of cool.
Yeah.
And then I'm seeing these games come out and getting releases, and stuff is coming to Steam, and I'm like, wow, that never came to Steam before, and like PlayStation games coming to Steam, and like it's cool. It's cool that things are in one marketplace,
Hmm.
and I've been playing. I'll talk about this briefly because the pod's going to be wrapped up soon. But I've been
Yeah.
playing Monster Rancher. James, do you have any familiarity with Monster
Monster
Rancher?
Rancher. No,
It is a PS1
I was
game.
expecting the word hunter.
No, no, no. This game is wild. It is a PS1 game originally, but they re-released 1 and 2 in like a remastered format. They had to
Hmm.
remaster it because it is a game in which you raise monsters. And did you ever play that Flash game, like Learning to Fly? It's like that penguin game where you like raised your
Uh,
penguin
yeah, yeah. I think I did play it.
and did competitions. It's like that,
Yeah.
uh, with monsters. And the way the monster system works is they're generated from the way it worked on the PS1 is you would put a CD, like a music CD, into the PS1, and it would
Uh
scan
huh.
the music CD and like look at the track list, and then it would use that to use their weird RNG system, and it would generate a monster from like a list of monsters, and it would have different characteristics and stats and color
Huh.
patterns and things, and
It's
then
pretty
you would
cool.
use that. Yeah, it's pretty cool, and you could breed them and like add characteristics and change all that stuff, and
Yeah.
it's really fun. It's very simple, and there's like a billion of these games, but it's like hooked me recently. I don't know, this like monster simulation and farming has been like
Hmm.
really hooked into me, and you should look up. There's a character. There's like an obelisk type monster that is just a. It's like a brick wall with a face. I think it's called like an obelisk. I don't know. Look up like obelisk monster. It's called like an the type of
Monster Rancher
monster.
Obelisk.
Yeah, the type of monster is called like a monal, like a
Oh,
monal.
I see it. Apparently, this had an anime.
It did. I might have to check
Yeah, it
that
was a
out. That
Monster
sounds
Rancher
kind of fun.
anime. It has at least 63 episodes because I see
Oh my
episode
god!
63. Let me see.
But
This was in
it,
2001.
it's kind of funny because it feels like they want to. It has like Pokemon and Digimon esque energy, but like with some of, I love the characters, but they're some of the most unmarketable characters. They're very janky and terrible, but I kind of
Yeah.
love it. It's kind of great. Um, but it's a fun. It's one of those Japanese jank type games that are really fun.
Hmm.
And for the remake, because you can't scan in CDs, you can type in an artist and song, and there's like a big database they pull from, and they have a lot of like more contemporary songs in that database. So I
Yeah.
generated like a Daft Punk monster, and it's just kind of fun. It's just kind of neat to put in like
Daft Punk
putting
monster.
in. Well, it's funny. You can like put in a song and then be like, "Well, what monster will I get from putting in this crazy song?" You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, that's been taking up a lot of my time in terms of fun. What have you been up to?
Uh, I'm pretty much the same as last time, just playing Deadlock and playing Raven's Watch. With Deadlock, there have been some patches. I think the game is going in the right direction, generally speaking. There's still some very, very funny, silly characters like Shiv, who so his whole thing is that he throws knives and the knives cause bleed damage. And then he has a dash that like does damage when he passes through people, and then he has a passive where he defers a certain amount of damage to make it like damage over time, and he can like clear a percentage of that damage like on a cooldown. And I think that's like the big problematic part because he just doesn't die like ever, especially late game because he can like keep buffing up the damage he defers until it's like 50%. So all your burst damage becomes damage over time, and then he gets rid of half of it. And he also has an execute on his ultimate. So it's like you're dropping everything on this guy, you're like building all these items to counter him, and then he just executes one of your teammates when they're below like 30% HP, and you're sad.
That that is always one of those features. I feel like that archetype is in a lot of these MOBA type games, and I don't know. How do you feel about a character that can just do that?
So
Like,
I'm
where's the
fine. I'm
counterplay?
fine with like the tank with an execute sort of sort of archetype, but the thing is, it's normally not percent based. It's like a flat amount of HP, or at least that's how it is in Dota, where it's like if the
Mhm.
person has below like 500 HP or lower or something like that, you can execute them. So there's like
Percent is crazy.
yeah, like the percent is pretty wonky. And then I also think the whole like delaying damage that you take, I much prefer. There's another character in Deadlock called Abrams where he regenerates a percentage of the damage he takes, but he doesn't delay it.
Mhm.
Which I prefer that design a little more
So if you
because
were
it's like
fighting
if
a
you can still
tank,
burst him.
if you were fighting a tank and they're at like 25% health or whatever, is
Yeah.
that would insta kill the same as like the squishiest character in the world?
Yes.
So that seems insane.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. It's weird because like the character is basically just Thanos. So like everybody
Uh-huh.
builds to counter him, obviously, and it's like that definitely impacts the data and stuff like that. And so sometimes there'll be patches where they just nerf him and it's fine, but it'll still be like pretty strong. But then the items that counter him become strong, and then they kind of buff him, and then it's like, well, damn, he's crazy OP again.
Is Deadlock a real game? Yeah, this sounds like a weird thing to
No,
say, but
the
is
game is still in alpha. It's very
okay.
very far. Like people don't really talk about it because the game's really fun, but there's lots of like very jank things about it. Like mostly with the UI, like like Valve games, they normally have a function where like you can spectate your team, your play, not your players, your friends when they're playing games, and it'll like tell you like what they're doing. Like it'll say like 20 minutes into a game playing this character or something like that. And that like whole thing isn't necessarily functioning yet. I think it's not like fully integrated with Steam, so it's got a
Hmm.
lot of bugs around it. Um, Lots of the characters just have like some odd bugs that happen occasionally. People will no clip through the map sometimes, things like that. And there's still some like pretty major crashes and stuff like that. There's actually there's been some tournaments for the game. Most of
Hmm.
them are only like the prize pools range from like 500 to like a couple thousand. Then I think there was one 15,000 one. Um, but like there have been some cases where like in a tournament the game will crash and there's not like they can't like start the game up from a certain state. They just have to restart it fully because they haven't implemented that stuff yet. So it's like it's still pretty far off from being like a fully released like Valve game.
Oh, I never considered that. So, like in a Dota, if the game crashes, they can just restore it for a perfect like state.
Yeah, it's not
That's
necessarily
crazy.
perfect. Like the creep waves are kind of messed up and things like that. But like the game, from what I understand, it replicates the last like check they did for the game state.
Has that ever happened in like a live stream tournament?
Yeah, there have been times when it's crashed. So when they switched to Source 2, it wasn't in for a little bit. So like there were some problems with that, and that caused them to like speed up the implement. Like they prioritized the implementation of it. But there's definitely been times where games have crashed and they've kind of restored it. As I said,
I've
it's
never
not
considered
perfect.
that.
Yeah, as I said, it's not perfect. Like the creep waves, sometimes creep waves won't spawn for like a full minute or something like that when
Mhm.
they restart. But it's definitely better than nothing. It's certainly better than fully restarting the game.
Yeah, I guess that is something you don't have to worry about in like real sports, unless I guess like the
Yeah,
power went out at the stadium or something.
yeah,
Huh.
yeah.
So,
And I'm trying to think
is
if
the
there's
game the
anything
big
else.
question? Here's the big question of Deadlock. Is it still fun? We'll ask that
Yeah,
every time we talk about it.
yeah. I definitely think it's still fun.
Okay.
They patch it. They do a major patch every 2 weeks or so. And, they're good at hot fixing things that are just really stupid. There's okay, there is one thing that they haven't hot fixed, which is kind of funny. So around the map, there are like these golden statues and crates that you can break by like sliding through them, dashing through them, or punching them, or shooting them. And the crates have a chance to drop souls, which are like the golden XP of this game, or they can drop permanent buffs, like like +2% fire rate, +1% CDR, stuff like that. And there is a lot of them. Like they're literally everywhere on the map that isn't the middle of a lane.
Hmm.
And so the intention with them was that people, you have your carries and stuff farming the lanes. Maybe they're farming jungle too. The jungle camps take a long time to respawn. They take like 7 minutes or something. Whereas in Dota, it's like they respawn every minute. Um, and it's 7 minutes from when they get killed as well. So when you have your supports roaming around and stuff, they'll just hit crates in the meantime. They'll get some permanent buffs. They'll get some money. But what they did is they made these buffs scale better, and at like 25 minutes into the game, they have a massive uptick in their quality. Like they'll get like 2 or 3 times better.
Hmm.
And so what people do is they like even as early as 2 minutes into the game, because they spawn at 2 minutes and they respawn every 3 minutes or every 4 minutes. 2 minutes into the game, somebody will just leave their lane and just go on, like they'll just be crate maxing. Like they'll just
That's
destroy all the
horrible.
boxes, all the golden statues. They'll get all those like permanent buffs, and in the
Yep.
meantime, they just have somebody like stall out the lane and just play safe. And they can also
That's like
like
an
leech XP if
instant.
they're close enough.
That's like a Matt instant quit mechanic where I'm like, if that becomes the mechanic, I'm like, all right, I'm done. I
Yeah,
think
like
that's the
all
problem with
the
me MOBAs. Is there's so many instant I'm done
yeah
mechanics.
all the top streamers and like top players, they're like optimizing it now. And they're getting like they're like hard rushing like movement speed items, and just 2 minutes into lane after
Crate
like just
maxing.
chilling for a bit, they just run around crate max and become Amazon employees. They
What they
like
should do,
all the characters that have built-in movement speed bonuses and stuff like that. They just pick them and just run around and hit crates.
what they
It's
should
really
do
fun.
is lock them and then have a little window that comes up and you could pay for keys and then you could unlock the crates and have
Right.
some sort of surprise mechanic.
Yeah, they've nerfed it slightly where they've pushed back the window where they get like big buffs. I think what they should probably do is they should just reduce the number of them, because there's some areas on the map where there's like a really high density of crates. So like there's some really like crazy pathing you can do where you get like a shit ton and you actually get more money from the crates than you would by sitting in lane. And you can also, some people are also like optimizing it where you get an XP range of one of the lanes at the start and end of your path so you don't even miss waves. Yeah.
Everything you're saying is just being like, I don't want to play this game, but that's not for me. It's not. It doesn't
Yeah.
have to be for me.
Yeah,
I'm Doom. I'm Doom
they're
guy.
definitely gonna fix it at some point because I think the intention is like, since all XP is shared in the early game, um, it makes some people not want to leave their lane to gank and stuff like that. So you need to reward them for leaving by like giving them something to do like while they're running on the ganks. And jungle can't
Yeah.
take too long, so it's like you just hit crates on the way there, hit crates on the way back, and you're back in lane. But yeah, I just think at the moment there's too many. I think the 25 or 30 minute now buff is a bit too strong. Like you have some people, there are some streamers who are like intentionally not ending the game just to see how many of the buffs they can get and see how strong they can get.
I'm sure it'll end up in a place of balance, but because
Yeah,
it's so early, they'll figure it out.
yeah. And then they've also added. So this was like 2 days ago actually. They added ranked mode, and so how it works
Oh,
is it's got time windows like the old playtests used to have, where it's like you basically choose a time window that's most convenient for you. Like North America has two. It's either 1 to 4 p.m. and 7 to 10 p.m. And this is an EST, by the way, or it's 4
mhm.
to 7 p.m. and 10 to 1 a.m. And yeah, so far it's been all right. There isn't a draft system. It's still like you select what characters you want to like play, and it'll give you one based on your like priority and stuff like that. So there are some games where you just kind of get draft diffed, but it's a pre-alpha game, so like your rank in a pre-alpha game isn't that huge. What they're
It's all that
mainly testing
matters in the
for,
world.
yeah, what they're mainly testing for right now, from what I understand, is like just the functionality of the system and like getting people to play a little more serious so that they can get some better data on some things. Um, but yeah, it's been fun. The way the rank system works is a little weird though, because you have to play. So each week it's going to be open every day, and each week you have to play a minimum of 7 games to get your rank, but you don't get your rank until the end of the week. So right now, everybody's they've obviously, a bunch of people have played their 7 games so already, and they just don't have their rank yet. So everybody's just kind of gaming, and then at the end of the week, everybody's going to get their bragging rights.
I don't know if I like that. I think people like instant gratification on there.
Yeah, they like seeing the numbers go up or
Well,
go down.
I guess there's different mentalities about it because seeing the number go up feels good. Seeing the number go down after every match feels bad for people. So it's a balancing act. It's
Yeah,
all at the end of the day, it's all mental
yeah.
and just designing it in a way to make people not upset.
I think in general I do prefer badge systems as opposed to just numbers, and like I also don't. I'm actually not 100% sure how I feel about like not showing even like subdivisions and badges, but you just kind of get the rank up when you deserve it.
Hmm.
I think it's definitely a little less toxic, but some people want like more details on like exactly how well or how poorly they're doing.
Well, ranked is like inherently toxic. I think
Yeah,
it,
but yeah,
but
come the end of the week, everybody's gonna get their ranks. People will be happy. People will be sad. Stuff will happen.
everyone will
But
be
yeah,
in the gold equivalent. Everyone will be kind of in the middle. Like
yep,
it's like either you're like literally don't have a hand and never played a video game, so you're in like silver, bronze, or you're the average person in like a gold, and then if you play a lot, then you're like plat, and then if you are
yeah,
annoying and mean and bad, then you're in like the diamond equivalent, and then
yeah,
anything past that is like you're like a pro at that point. Basically, it's like well you're playing the game a lot,
hmm
not a
yeah,
pro, but like you're playing it enough that if you're gonna keep playing, you might as well get good enough. Because why are
yeah,
you even bothering? You know.
yeah. What's actually really funny is since the game didn't have a ranking system before, everybody was claiming to be like a top 0.1% player, and there were like all these like tracking websites. Like there was one called Tracklock. There's like Deadlock Stat Tracker, and they all had their own like original MMR systems that were just blatantly inaccurate.
Yeah, I
Like one of
won the
the
last 900 matches.
Yeah, like one of them. Well, so first of all, they can't track every single game because what they do is they use the spectator function to track games, and the spectator can only do 2,000 games at a time.
Hmm.
So like if you're beyond that limit, that game's just not getting tracked. so just blatantly missing games. And also, how most of them do their MMR system is it's the average MMR of your match that's judged. So
Oh
first of
God.
all, that's if you actually think about it, like get into the nitty gritty, that doesn't really make sense because you're like, okay, so it's the average MMR. Where did all these people get their MMR from? Oh, the average MMR of their game. So it's like it's a loop.
Yeah.
And also, if you play with a friend who's lower MMR or a friend who's higher MMR, your MMR just goes up according to the system, and it's not really based off of win loss. Like technically, right? If you lose, you'll get in a lower MMR game, but the system doesn't really evaluate wins and losses. So like it says if you're in a game that is higher MMR than your last game, it says that your MMR has gone up, basically. So yeah, very very, very funny things going on with all the stat tracker websites. People really want to be able to track their MMR like very badly.
I don't know. That's the thing. That's the thing in all games. I think
Yeah,
in nowadays with like certain ranked games, people like the people like the. There are some people who like chase the thrill of getting a rank up, and it motivates them to
yeah,
play. But I think we should call it a day. We've been potting a lot.
yep.
Um, so I think we'll end it here. I've been Matt, aka Matt Fondude, and who are you?
I've been James, aka Afro4E.
And you can find us on probably X and YouTube and Twitch and other places.
Yeah, who knows how much longer
Just
that X thing is gonna last? They're really trying. Elon's really trying to drive it into the ground.
okay, one more thing about X. I noticed the other day their like weird AI bot is called Grok.
Yeah,
They're Grok 2. What a horrible name. Grok Tua. Grok
yeah,
Tua.
I was thinking that too.
Think about that. That was I'm sure people have made that joke, but that was off the dome reading that.
Yep.
Grok. Stop letting Elon name things. Horrible
Yeah,
names.
he's
I
got
mean,
to be
Tesla's
like an
cool.
all-time worst namer.
Horrible names for things. All right, let's end it. Bye.
Bye.